Nothing better than to celebrate a sweep. What is up? What is going on, everybody? Welcome back and welcome in to the Seattle Mariners series recap. The Mariners finish off the Pirates today with their second straight 1-0 win, and they sweep the Pirates in this 3-game series, improving to 47 and 42 on the season. As always, before I get into the recap, do me a favor, like the video, comment your thoughts on the team and the game down below. And don't forget to hit that subscribe button. I've reached 4,800 subs. Thank you to everybody that's helped me get to that. The next goal is 5,000. We are just 200 subscribers away from that goal. The team seems to do better when I do these series recaps. I did one when I was out of town when they swept Texas earlier in the year, and now they do it when they sweep Pittsburgh here in the start of July. So maybe I should just do series recaps. Before I get into the game, if you don't care about any of this stuff, just stuff with my channel, you can skip forward maybe a minute or two. Do apologize. Just for people that haven't seen the videos, I was out of town this weekend for the 4th of July. Couldn't do the game on the 4th. Got home late yesterday. Was just exhausted, so I figured I'd do a series recap. That's probably going to be the case for the next two series. I'm out of town again for a wedding next week. I'll try. It might be a little bit easier for me next week, actually. I might actually have a chance outside of Friday, the day of the actual wedding, to do some recaps. So just bear with me through the All-Star break. Once we get past then, second half, I'll be back to nightly recaps. Like I said, if you can all just bear with me, I think everybody understands life happens. There are things way more important than baseball. Don't know what they are, but apparently these are them. So thank you to everybody for your understanding with this. 4 Mariners named to the All-Star team before we get into it. Andres Munoz, obviously deserved. Cal Raleigh, duh. Brian Wu, congrats to Brian Wu on his first All-Star game, well-deserved. And Julio Rodriguez is an All-Star. I'll be honest, I don't necessarily think Julio really deserves it. I think guys like George Springer are having just a little bit more balanced seasons than Julio. I don't think Julio is as bad as it's going to be made out to be. Defense matters. If you want to know why defense matters, watch the game yesterday when the Mariners won 1-0 and Julio robbed McCutchen of an extra base hit that could have been the difference. So, but the offense isn't there for me to say Julio deserves to be an all-star. With that said, I'll be perfectly honest, and you gals have been with me for a couple years now. No, I don't really care about the All-Star game. I rarely watch it. Loved it as a kid. Loved the pomp and circumstance around it. Do love that the teams are wearing their actual uniforms again this year. Thank goodness. I hate the generic All-Star jersey. I don't mind it as like buying it and having it, but like on the field, I hate it for the games. I just don't care that much about it. Do I think Julio deserved it? Probably not. I'm really, so if someone wants to come in the comments and say it's ridiculous that he's in, don't care. If you want to defend that he's in, don't care either. Fine, either way. It really doesn't matter that much to me about the All-Star game. I care about the Mariners. I'll take 0 All-Stars and a Mariners playoff appearance over 2 or 3 All-Stars and not getting in. I mean, good for the guys. I'm sure they're happy about it, but it's just not something I care that much about. I did not watch the game last year. I think the last one I watched was the one in Los Angeles. I did watch Julio in the Derby, but it's just not something like that really. You will not see me making any videos debating on who should be in and who shouldn't. So congrats to all 4 of those guys for getting in. Like I said, I definitely, if you want my opinion, probably don't think Julio necessarily had an all-star first half of the season. Defensively, he did. Offensively, I just can't get behind it. But it'll be fun, if you're a fan of the All-Star game, to see 4 Mariners representing the team, and hopefully it leads to a big second half of the season for the guys. And for everybody else, well, no, we still have 6 games. I was going to say rest up. There's still a lot of baseball to play. Okay, let's get into the series. The Mariners shut out the Pirates for 3 straight games. Absolutely incredible pitching. Yes, the Pirates offense is not good, but however, the Pirates had come in winning. Geez, I gotta get better at this, missing a few days. Winning 6 in a row. They had just pitched 3 straight shutouts of their own in the previous series, and I believe they had scored something like 48 runs over those 6 games. So their offense was clicking. Is it good? No, it's not. But they were playing good baseball coming in here. It was a series that worried me a little bit, knowing that you would face Paul Skeens on Sunday and have to deal with that. So you looked at that as a toss-up, and you had to find a way to get a couple other wins in there to win the series, especially after not winning the series against Kansas City. And the Mariners pitching just phenomenal this series, and good momentum for them. Brian Wu was lights out on the 4th of July. Luis Castillo, I think, pitched the best of all three yesterday, and George Kirby was outstanding today as well. Just three dominant starts. Very how we envision the Mariners winning baseball games this series. They do it 6-0. You'd like to see more than one each of the last two games, but Burroughs is a good young arm, and Skeens or Skubal, who we're going to see soon, yay, are the two best in the business. So I can't get super mad at them for not putting up a ton of runs the last two games. But it really is good to see the pitching starting to get locked in. The team is starting to pitch more like we expected them to coming into this year. I don't know where they are now, but I think during the road trip at some point, I had mentioned that they were like 23rd in FWAR for starting rotation. That's just not going to get it done for this team when the offense is probably going to regress a little bit. It's been good, streaky, but good. And they need the pitching get dialed in. And I think it will, and it has so far. George Kirby settling in, pitching like George Kirby. Brian Wu, for my opinion, is a top 5 starter in the American League. And Castillo, especially at home and even on the road too, I think he's been better. Has been really, really solid. And then you factor in that Logan Gilbert, while still not going deep into games yet, we want to see him get to those 5-6 innings, is still pitching pretty well. And then that 5th spot, Logan Evans looked really good against the Royals. So maybe you've kind of settled that a little bit as well, and you've got this rotation really ready to take off. And it's going to be needed too, because now you're going to Yankee Stadium, where we know, the ball can, especially to right field, can get out there pretty quickly. So if you can get the offense taking advantage of that, which I think they can hit well at Yankee Stadium, and you have Logan and Brian Wu both going in that series, you feel pretty good with the way the pitching's going, that they can, do some damage there and really take off. Because that's how the team's really, really going to make a mark on this season, right? They're 47-42. They're in a playoff spot. I don't know. Did Tampa Bay lose? Let's actually check the standings to see exactly where they are in the wild card at the moment here. Let me just pull it up real quick. Wild card. I know there's 7 back in the division. The Astros are just demons that refuse to lose. Looks like Tampa did win. So you're a game behind Tampa and the Yankees for that first and second wild card. So it's a big series coming up for the Mariners. They have a 2.5 game lead overall for a playoff spot, but you'd love to pass one of those teams and just give yourself that buffer. One, you have a chance to maybe host the wild card series potentially if you can get into that 4 spot. And it just, I think, sets up for, to just gives yourself, like I said, that cushion to potentially make the playoffs. So a big series coming up. So good to see the rotation starting to settle in. And I do think the offense can absolutely hit in Yankee Stadium and potentially do some damage. And the Yankees are struggling a little bit. You can look at that one of two ways. You can look at that as you're catching them at the right time. We don't face Max Fried. I think Rodon, and we don't face Rodon either. And I think Clark Schmidt is hurt. So you're catching their rotation at a good time. Obviously a little bit worried that they've been scuffling, that the Yankees are too good of a team to not right the ship a little bit. So that's a little concerning maybe, but I think you're catching them at the right time. The Tigers is going to be tough. You're facing Skubal, but if you can, maybe win the Yankees series, you win 1 of 3 in Detroit. It's not the end of the world. And truthfully, I think if you can go 3-3 on this road trip, you probably sign up for it and take it. I'd love to see the team go 4-2. That would be amazing to finish up the first half. But I think 3-3 would be okay as well. The bullpen also lights out in the series. Pizzardo and Thornton get the job done in game 1. Yesterday it was Brash and Munoz getting it done. Today Vargas, even though he only faced 2 hitters, gets the one out. Gabe Spire was, again, man, he has been so dominant this month after didn't look bad, but, looked more human maybe in May, June. He looks back to April. They were talking on the broadcast. He has a strikeout rate. I don't know if they said higher than Mason Miller, but in that vicinity, higher than Felix Bautista, higher than Andres Munoz. You want to talk about guys that maybe could have made the All-Star team. I know sometimes setup men don't make it unless you're just like historically good, but man, Spire, you could have made a case for. And then the All-Star Andres Munoz locks it down. Munoz had a few outings there in June, the Minnesota series, a little bit in Texas where he didn't look amazing. I thought all those outings, though, where Munoz struggled or didn't have it, or excuse me, blew the save or whatever you want to say. I thought they were all kind of like little rinky dinky blown saves. What I mean by the outside of that one Minnesota game, it was all stuff where like guy got hit, just clipped, and then a stolen base because Munoz isn't good at holding runners on. Then a little infielder, ground out moves a runner over, and then a little infield hit. It was a lot of that stuff against Munoz. He wasn't being hit hard. Some of the command control stuff wasn't great, but at no point did I think Munoz wasn't still the guy. And he has a nice bounce back series and actually bounced back homestand. He pitched well against the Royals as well when he locked down the save. In that game. So a great series for Munoz. Randy continues to stay hot. Homers again in this one. Cal with the, I start with pitching. Cal 2 more home runs on the 4th of July. 35 now for Cal, tying Griffey for the most home runs before the All-Star break as a Mariner. He's 4 shy of Barry Bonds' record at the All-Star break of 39. I mean, Yankee Stadium should be a place where Cal should at least hit 1 out in the series. You would think he gets 1 there. So I would say 36, 37, not out of the question. And it's funny, the last video I made, obviously I called out Julio and Cal a little bit too, because Cal did not have a great game in that final game of the series. And every time I think Cal might be like, maybe he's going to cool off a little bit. This is, his best season by far. It's not like he's doing this every year. Maybe he's going to drop off a little bit. He goes out and hits 2 home runs, including the hardest hit ball of his career in game 1 of this series. Every time I think there's a little drop off, he goes 2 for 4 with 2 home runs. And again, I don't have the box score up for today. I just doing all 3 games and I really want to get into each one. But I think even reached base, I think twice today with a walk and a hit by pitch as well. So he's still finding ways on base. We talk about Randy heating up, a tremendous series against the Royals. Homers twice in this series as well. So he's on a bit of a home run tear. He was someone I called out a few weeks ago that really needed to get going, to help get this team to where we wanted it to be. And at the time, Julio was okay. And Randy has really stepped up to be almost a borderline all-star, I think, at this point. So he is really, really locked in. Be huge to have him have one more big, kind of run before the all-star break. Dom Canzone has 3 more hits today. He homered in that 9th inning. Well, I talked about that against the Royals. I think he had a hit yesterday. How about 2 hits off Paul Skeens for Dom Canzone? I mean, I don't care if one of them was kind of a little dribbler down the line. That's impressive. That is absolutely impressive for Dom. He continues to be locked in and really starting to trust him. I've kind of already there, but it's at the point now when Dom comes up and I'm like, okay, Dom's coming up. We got a chance here. And the at-bats are just so much better. Is he walking? No, it's just not really his game. But his last at-bat today where he got a hit, he was down 0-2. Laid off 3 tough pitches, got that count back in his favor, and got a base hit. He's doing a lot more of that. The approach looks so much better. Even if he's not walking more, he just looks so much more dialed in at the plate. Polanco, I thought, had a pretty decent. I think the Kansas City and Pittsburgh series are kind of running into each other for me in my head a little bit. But I think he did have a hit today. Should have scored in that first inning. Sorry, not going through the play-by-play, just doing more of an overview. But either Randy should have told JP to slide or JP needed to slide there. I don't know. The catcher I thought did a good job kind of deking JP. I feel like Randy should have been more telling him to get down on that. But he ended up coming around and winning the game anyways. But that was Polanco's 1,000th career hit. So good for him. He's starting to have a little bit of a bounce back to at least being, more serviceable. Had that nice game to finish up in Kansas City. Trying to think of anything else. Funny enough with JP, I saw a number the other day that he's like 4th in baseball for most consecutive plate appearances without a walk right now, which is so weird for JP. He seems more aggressive up there. Now, if you're getting pitches that are strikes, you can't, walks are kind of out of your control at times, right? You can only do so much if the pitcher's throwing strikes. Definitely still having a fine season, but cooled off a little bit. For sure. I do wonder if there's a chance JP could get in the All-Star game with Jeremy Pena. Probably not going to be able to play. I'm sure not going to be able to play in it. So maybe a chance JP gets in, but would like to see him get back going and get on a little bit of a hot streak. I think that would be huge for the team. Luke Raley has had some good at-bats, but hasn't really gotten dialed in. One thing we know about pretty much every player in this Mariners lineup, and it's why the offense is frustrating at times, they're all streaky. They're again, repeating myself, I've probably said this 50 times this year, but there are series and runs for this team where this offense, you would easily put it up against anybody. You're like, how are they not scoring 13 runs? They're just that dialed in. Then they have stretches where you just want to pull what little hair I have or anything out. You're just done, right? You're just, how are they this bad? And it's just, there's a lot of streaky players. Even Cal can be streaky at times, right? Like, now certainly a lot less streaky this year if you just, want to consider really hot and then somewhat hot as streaks. But everybody else, Rayleigh, Julio, Randy, even Dom with his approach, those are going to be streaky type players. Another reason why they need JP to kind of get that on base percentage locked back in, because he's a guy that even when he's not hitting real well, should be able to get on base for you and provide a certain amount of value. I thought, how about Ben Williamson last night? Had the game-winning hit, 104 off the bat after, I think, Solano grounded out with the runner at third and one down. Williamson comes through with 2 outs and delivers the game-winning hit. Williamson continues to do what he's needed to do. I'm not going to go on another Ben Williamson conversation, but I think he's done exactly what you've expected of him to do. He's not some elite player or anything like that, but he's given you good defense, and he's just provided enough offensively. Not against the team looking at third base at the deadline, if that's a spot they can upgrade, for sure. But, that was a real nice piece of hitting by Ben. And every now and then with him, it's just, there's some moments where he's frustrating, right? He's not a power guy, so you're not up there expecting, that, hey, he can always run into one, doesn't walk a ton. So he can have some frustrating moments, but he has some really good at-bats too, and some really good contact swings on the ball as well. And it kind of gives him, one of those players that always has a chance when he's up there because he's going to put the ball in play. And like I said, I'm not a massive like, oh, this guy's striking out, that's the worst thing ever. But Ben Williamson is kind of a good example of how contact hitters can survive, right? Because he's always against any pitcher got a chance to put the ball in play, and maybe it finds a hole. So, I don't remember if he played in the first game or not, but big game-winning hit yesterday for him. Yeah, just a great fun series for the Mariners, right? Starting pitching, really starting to come together, and they finish up that 17-game and 17-day run. They go 11-6. They played a lot of baseball. There could have been a lot of opportunities here for them to just mail it in a little bit and fatigue to settle in. That's another reason I was worried about this Pirates series. Thought the team looked a little fatigued against the Royals, and they sort of, not lucky, but squeaked out a split there. I mean, I know it sounds weird because the Mariners were actually up 2-1 and up 1-0 in that final game, but it felt kind of like a survival split. And you had Pittsburgh coming in here red hot, and I was a little bit worried. And then Skeens today that, maybe just a little fatigue settles in and this team drops 2 out of 3 to finish up this homestand, but they stay strong and they get it done. You know what? I thought Dan managed the bullpen really well over these 17 games. Were there moments I disagreed with the decisions? Of course. There's no manager that you're not going to disagree with something that they're doing. There is not a single guy that the Mariners could bring in here that isn't going to get questioned about something. But I thought, considering how many games they played, thought Dan did a real nice job with the starting pitchers and the bullpen. And I thought the lineups were constructed pretty well. Solano was red hot to start this trip, or at this, in Chicago. They gave him plenty of at-bats. Dom's been swinging the bat well. They did a good job managing Luke, Dom, Solano. Dom Solano sounds like a sandwich or something. The Dom Solano. But they did a good job giving all these guys at-bats. Cole Young and Williamson, mixing Polanco in there at second, even getting Garver some at-bats who looked better on this road trip. I'm not going to judge Garver too much today. He was robbed of a double by Pham against Paul Skeens. I mean, come on, like there was no chance, getting all those guys into the game. I thought Dan did a real good job, and not saying that there aren't criticisms that Dan deserves. There are, but considering all the games they just played and how many days they did it, I thought he did a real solid job here. Well-deserved day off. Sometimes I'm worried about days off when teams are locked in because it's like you just want to keep playing baseball. This is not one of them. They absolutely need a day off tomorrow. And now you go into New York, a big series, a team that you could pass in the playoff standings by winning this series. Or I don't know, they'd be tied. I don't know who would have the tiebreaker. I think it goes by division record, which I don't know who has that right now. So that would be tough to say exactly who would get it. But now you get to go into that series with the Yankees and everything's reset. Bullpen good to go. Go win a series. Go win a series here and get back to that first, second wild card. As far as the division goes, the Astros just won't stop. I mean, it doesn't matter who's in there. I mean, I could go in there for them, and it just doesn't stop right now. I didn't think they'd be this good. I didn't think they were bad by any means. I've never dismissed that team. My motto on them has always been until they're knocked off their perch of AL West and truthfully the American League, it's theirs. I did not think they would be 7 games up at this point in the season. I didn't think it. Even with the Mariners the way they were, if you told me 48 and 42, probably would have said 3.5 back, something like that. I don't think it's over necessarily. I do not think the Mariners are going to win it. I want to be very clear. This isn't some bold call. My gut is not my gut. My gut and the numbers would tell you the Astros are going to win this division. Maybe I think you play them 6 more times and somehow go 5-1. Maybe there's a chance, of something happening. 4-2, you cut into it enough. But man, you're gonna have to play really good baseball, and the Astros should be getting healthier too. Although Jordan had a setback, so I don't know. And they've got such a good 1-2 punch with Valdez and Brown and that back into their bullpen. So I don't think you're going to win the division, but I still think you have a good chance to get in the playoffs. I don't think the AL is wild, like to the point where you can't do damage. Truly, Detroit's the only team that I really look at and go, man, there's no chance. No disrespect. I know a lot of Astros fans watch my channel. It's not that I don't think the Astros be favored against the Mariners, but I've seen the Mariners beat the Astros enough that I do think they can. I'm not saying they would. I do think they can. Toronto they're playing great ball, but Toronto isn't like overly scary. They're 52 and 38 with a worse run differential than the Mariners. The Yankees have problems and injuries, and Tampa's dangerous, but there's nobody that go, oh man, there's no way the Mariners, couldn't get by this team. Tigers would be tough because dang well in a playoff series you're facing Skubal. Maybe if you stole one against Skubal, you'd have a chance. I do think this team gets in, though. I do. I said it last week. I do think we're going to get playoff baseball. Could be wrong on that. It's not some sort of bold statement to have someone clip this and come back. I've also said that the last couple years, and it hasn't been true. Am I biased? Yeah, I'm a Mariners fan. Of course, I'm biased somewhat in this, as would any fan of any team be. Maybe some people go biased the other way and they hate their team so much, but I do think they get in. I do think the teams behind them are worse, and I think the Mariners can make the most impact at the deadline. So we'll see what happens. I'm going to take tomorrow off. Channel members, I'll do a Immaculate Grid video for you guys tomorrow. Maybe just chit chat in a video as well. So I'll have that up for y'all tomorrow for a members video. Sorry, I haven't had a lot of content for you guys, but we'll have something tomorrow. And then Tuesday, I'll be back for the post-game recap, and then just bear with me for the remainder of the week. So take care, everybody. Like, comment, subscribe. And as always, go Mariners. How sweep it is. Peace.